Love y'all, boys. Love you. Love you. I'll go to war with every single one of you every game, all right? Love you, 1-7. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Win.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have me doubts, not what I'm about, have your fucking clout. It be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, bitch I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. 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 It's showtime.
Welcome to Friday Night Lights. I am your host, Mikey, and obviously you do not see Tommy on the screen. Tommy had to work. Our man, Jarek from Jan Sports, is filling in for him. What's going on, Jarek?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? What's going on? Glad to be back here again. And Mike had to give me the call, right, man? So you already know I got to respond to it. Of course, I'm always love to be on the show, man, as always.
Yeah, it'll be nice because now tonight me and you can kind of bounce around. We were talking off air a little bit about what our thoughts are about the Bills, where they stand today, some of the issues, some of the concerns we have. So we'll go through it. But first, let's go around the league. We'll start with one of the things we were just talking about, the Johan Dotson trade.
Oh, God.
An interdivision trade. How does Brandon Beane not get involved in a trade like that?
It's ridiculous. We talked about this off air, man, but it's just, he's comfortable. He's very comfortable with this receiver room because there's no way with some of the money that we're sitting on right now. And it's not the best available money, but we still got some money available to make
about
that
$10 million
to make a move. A lot of people thought we could have got Justin Simmons, and we didn't do that. Now there's a point where you didn't even have to really spend that much money. I mean, like you said before, he's cheap as all heck. He's
1.3 this year,
young
2.1 I think next year.
Insane.
What his cap hit is.
Very, very productive. Very, very productive player. I've seen him play X and Z, so I like his versatility. I just, for a receiving core that's banged up right now and that has question marks to a point where your best receiver, at least on paper, might not even play week 1. I don't know why we didn't make this move, especially with the amount of picks that we have.
Right? We have the first, we have the 2 seconds, going into next year. If we give up our 3rd and 7th, so be it. We get this young kid for 2 years to find out, add to this core that we're doing this youth movement. Let's fully go into it. But, missed the bus on that one. Another one that hurts my heart, Creed Humphreys got paid, is now the highest paid center in football. Every time this guy does something, it hurts my heart. We went Boogie Basham over Creed Humphreys. Oh. What's your thought on Creed getting the bag?
It seems like everything Kansas City does, man, it just hurts my heart. I wanted Trey Smith. If you watch college football, everyone knew when he played that Trey Smith was a first round talent. Now, of course, he slid all the way to the 6th because he had a heart condition. But as soon as he was cleared up to play some football and he was sliding through that draft, I'm like, please use your 4th round pick, use your 5th round pick. You gotta give this guy a shot because that's a legit first round talent. And then they just signed him, and now he's one of the highest paid guards. Now all of a sudden we have Creed Humphrey, and yeah, you could have got Creed. You took Boogie
Could have both. Could have them both.
In the same. You could have them both in the same draft, and you didn't do it.
No.
You could have had your established interior offensive line right there, and you let it go. I mean, the Kansas City just does everything. You take Trent McDuffie, you take Trey, you take Creed. You
take the punt god from us.
You take the punt god.
That one hurts my heart.
Everything.
Watching him booting it 70 yards, having the time of his life, jumping around. Like, what are we doing?
it's the crappy part is that that these players, because in our coaching staff, that these players could have been special for us. Like this is something that we talked about pre-draft, and it's just they just want, I don't know, they want to do their own way.
Right. So did you see that Zay Jones got suspended for 5 games?
Yep.
So he'll miss week 1 because he's with the Cards now. So he's gonna miss week 1. Rams left tackle Jackson suspended 2 games for conduct. Knicks won the starting job in Denver, which I think was the right move.
Mm-hmm.
They had already pushed Wilson out of the race, so it was basically Knicks versus Stidham. And really, if you started Stidham over Knicks, I would have to question why you took Knicks in the first round.
Yeah, you gotta try something, because if I know that there were some Broncos fans out there that's not the biggest fan of Knicks. Listen, you got to try something with Knicks, because next year's quarterback class is nowhere near this one. It's nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait 1 more year if you want to have a special draft class like this, because unfortunately, Arch Manning not going anywhere. Nico's at Tennessee. He's gonna kill it. Mm-hmm. This year's quarterback draft, I mean, it's terrible. It's people are on the Chador bandwagon, and they're on it's bad. It's a very bad class. So
who is it? It was Carson Beck, right?
Yeah.
Isn't he like the top guy? Him and Shador are like the two top ones?
Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, they all have major flaws in their games.
Yeah. They're talking about, will Quinn even make it through the season as a starter? Because Arch was killing it in the spring game.
Yep, he's out playing him.
And Jessica, I realize the draft is best a 50-50 hit rate. I get that. There's just guys that I loved going into that draft. Creed was one of those guys that I felt that was gonna really hit. Boogie Basham, I didn't see the fit. Very much like the Kyer Elam, I didn't see the fit. But you know what? I was also wrong, because I didn't see the fit for Osiris Torrance. In the way our offensive line molds. And he killed it last year. I didn't see the fit in Keon Coleman. And during spring, he's done really well. Spring and summer, he's done really well. So, just because I like a guy doesn't mean that or don't like a guy doesn't mean that it's going to work. It's just, it's 50-50. You never know. It just hurts when it's the guy that you like and then the guy hits. It's like, oh, that one hurt. Yep. It happens.
Yep.
Aren't you who didn't want Josh Allen? No, that was not me. I very much wanted Josh Allen. I wanted Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson going in.
I wanted Lamar over Josh. Lamar was my guy. He was my guy coming out of college. But hey, I wanted
one or the other. I didn't care. I wanted no part of Josh Rosen.
I'm cool with it.
I wanted no part of Josh Rosen. I would have been okay if we went with Sam Darnold, because I just think they ruined him in New York.
Yeah.
I think Sam could have been good if he would have went to the right spot. I wanted no part of Baker Mayfield. I wanted no part of Josh Rosen. And it was more about the attitude of the player than it was anything else.
Mm-hmm.
NFL suspended Zay Jones, but got to be real here. The charges were dropped. What about Vaughn? Does the NFL see it differently for him? Who knows? We haven't heard anything on Vaughn's case.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't heard anything on Rashee Rice's case either.
Nope. He's not going to be suspended. That's what we're going towards.
Yeah, so you have no idea what's going to end up happening. Bears get Seahawks linebacker Taylor. So Darnell Taylor was traded from the Seahawks to the Bears. The Bears are really going for it this year. They're trying to make a ton of moves.
Rightfully so. I don't blame them. I don't blame one bit.
Yep. Did you see the Tua bashing Flores?
Flores, yep.
And then some of the players coming out saying, sticking up for Flores.
Mm-hmm. Because Flores, yes, I don't think Flores should have treated Tua that way, but at the same time, Tua was never his guy. That's not the quarterback he wanted. He wanted Justin Herbert. He let Chris Greer and ownership know multiple times about their game plan. They wanted to go in a different direction. Chris Greer did not want to go in that direction. And as soon as Tua was their guy, Chris Greer, he was like, okay, Chris and owner and ladies and gentlemen, fine, we'll go that route. But Tua's going to sit. He's going to develop right behind Ryan Fitzpatrick. Well, the first year he has no choice but to do it unless he comes out late, because tore his hip socket.
Yeah.
Year 2 though, I mean, we'll see what happens, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the guy here. And then you have Chris Greer coming out and literally forcing his hand to start Tua. And it was just a hot mess. Ryan Fitzpatrick should have been the guy for those 2 years. Tua should have been learning, trying to get healthy. But it just, that entire mess, it was just tons of miscommunication. But one side wanted something, the other side wanted another thing. And unfortunately, I think Chris just took that out on Tua, which should never happen. But I understand it. He was never in full control of the situation.
Yeah. It sounded like that whole situation with Flores was just wrong from the jump street.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The way the things that happened there was just odd. Then they flirted with bringing in Tom Brady and trading for Watson, and like they did everything they could to push Tua out the door. And then they brought in an actual offensive mind rather than a defensive mind. And, Tua's been relatively good the last 2 years. He struggles down the stretch, but I don't think it's just him. I think it's the whole team struggles down the stretch when they have to get into cold weather, So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So that's kind of our around the league. So let's jump into a little bit of the Bills. So we talked a little bit about the Johan Dotson missed the bus. Talking about the receiver room as a whole and how bad the backup quarterbacks have been. That you have like a Shavers and a KJ Handler and a Shorter and all these guys trying to make this team, but they get no opportunities because the quarterbacks have been so bad. What is your take on A, the receiver room, and B, where we stand with backup quarterback?
Yeah, I don't think the receiver room has been as bad as what some Bills fans have applied to it. I think our receiver room has been okay, especially some of our backups. We just don't have the quarterback that can give these guys the opportunity. I mean, even our promising rookie in Keon Coleman, who in that Steelers game was wide open on a deep dig route, and then the other one on a comeback route, and your quarterback not only couldn't see it, Mitch Trubisky was able to rush. I mean, he stepped up in the pocket, but he didn't really process. He just hurried up and tried to get the ball as fast as possible. As soon as Keon Coleman was breaking out of his route and going into the dig, didn't see him. He just rushed the process, and that's just been the entire situation. I mean, the first week it was Tyrell Shavers could easily got 5 catches, never happened because of again, and this is when Tyrell was playing, I think with the second team, and then with Buechele, none of these quarterbacks could even give him out. These receivers can't even get off their breaks. They can't even get into their breaks. And I think some of it has to do with the offensive line, but the quarterback play too has just been absolutely atrocious. And it's not fair for these receivers. And we talked about this backstage, but one of these guys are going to get screwed. My fear is Shavers, because I think Shavers has been the best. I think he's been one of the best receivers at camp. For what I've seen, I think he's been one of the best receivers at camp. He just doesn't have the opportunity in the game to prove that he can do it, and it sucks because he's been the best. In my opinion, he's been the best blocking receiver. He has been tremendous as a blocking receiver. Whatever you want him to do, he has done everything he possibly could, and he's taking advantage of every opportunity. He simply just can't have the quarterbacks that can deliver the ball to him
in the game, right?
Right.
He's doing some practice with Josh, correct?
Oh, when he practices with Josh, it's on the money. He's tremendous. When he practices with the first team, it's just that when he gets with the second and the third team, it's terrible. It's our quarterback situation. It's not giving these players any sort of fairness. And this is I get it. Josh Allen, obviously you want to protect him, but that rain really killed it, because I felt like Tyrell Shavers could have had an opportunity to play with that team, and just couldn't get it. Just couldn't get the opportunities, and it sucks, especially with Keon Coleman.
So let me ask you this question: knowing that the coaches haven't had much to look at inside of the games, do you think they're going to make their decision based off what they've seen in practice?
I think you have no choice but to look at it, because when you're taking a look at the preseason so far, I think it's been a mess. I just think that offensively it's not to where we want to get to. And I get it. Like, you don't want to show too much of your hand. You don't even want to show maybe even 5% of your hand, right? You're running a lot of basic concepts. You're not really scheming too much. Your blocking scheme is very, very basic. but these players just don't. I mean, what you're seeing in practice compared to what you're seeing on the field, it's not. I mean, it's not matching, and something's off. And I think if you take a look at the deep-rooted answer offensively, it's the quarterback position. That's one common denominator, is that these quarterbacks in practice have been terrible, and these quarterbacks have been terrible during the game as well. That's the one thing that does translate. Everything else, it's not really making any sense until you look at what the common denominator actually is.
Yeah.
So
week one, yeah, I'm with you on that. Week one, I do agree. The offensive line played part of that. Week two, the offensive line played good.
Yeah.
And the quarterbacks were just bad, all together bad. And it's hard to be too hard on the new one, Tommy, but because he was only there for like 3 days before he had to go play a game. So it's hard to, it'll be interesting to see like the game tomorrow that we're going to watch. We have Brown and we have, Danucci, and neither one of these guys have been here very long. So what are we really expecting tomorrow?
Yep.
Lot of running game. Could Shavers be a parking lot guy? Ooh, I like that. Could he be a parking lot guy? He could be no, because if we release Shavers, doesn't he go to waivers? Because he doesn't have time. He's not a vested vet yet. So wouldn't he?
Yeah,
so if we would be gambling with Shavers if we released him, very much like with Andreessen, and we'll get to Andreessen in a minute. If we released him, we'd be, putting him out on waivers. Now, will they get? I think the NFL, about 18% of people actually get picked up. But over the last 3 or 4 years, the Bills have had a very high number of their guys be picked up and claimed. We had like Luke Tenuta of all people. The short arm tackle was picked up, but then we have had Alex Austin and all these different guys, Jack Anderson, and so our back end rookie guys that we usually draft do get picked up by other teams. It'll be interesting to see about Shavers, because he's also a gunner on special teams, correct?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
I would like to see him get that final, because I think depending on the health of MVS, I think we have 4 locks for the roster, right? It's going to be Coleman, Samuel, Hollins, and Shakir. And then I think MVS, from a contract standpoint, is going to be the 5th guy. And I think we're going to have one more guy. And I think it comes down to either Shavers, Handler, Shorter, and all of those. I'd like it to be Shavers. Give him the first crack at it. Handler can make it back on the practice squad. He's been out there for a ton of time. What's your take on moving that route?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I know Shorter's gone. I think he's out of here. He just hasn't been impressive during training camp. Hasn't been bad particularly, but he just hasn't been really impressive. And like I said, he doesn't have that many game reps where he's just showing off on film like he deserves to make this roster. KJ Hamler, I think could have a special teams role. I think he could be a practice squad player that could be called up for special teams. Mm-hmm. But even at special teams, especially as a punt returner, I think he's been struggling a little bit. But he does have he has elite speed.
I think Hardy is going to be the punt returner. And
yeah, Hardy's
I think our running back Jones is going to be our kickoff returner. Something just tells me he's going to be he's going to be the kickoff returner.
Yeah, Hardy's been impressive, but I could see a role like that where maybe you can call him up just in case if we do suffer an injury.
MVS isn't ready for week 1. He goes on the practice squad. He gets called up the first couple weeks, waiting for MVS to come back. Something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And Jessica, I'm with you on this. I think Shavers should make the roster. My only concern is they put so much, weight in what happens on the field. And it's been so bad, it's hard to know what the Bills are going to do. They've had no chances. None of them. Like even Keon, he had the one shot at the touchdown last week. The ball wasn't great. He should have caught it, and he said himself. It was let's get your wide receiver murdered ball, But at the end of the day, it's just so hard to evaluate.
It's one of the weirdest preseasons I think I've seen in a long time because normally it's not even really the defense really struggles. Normally but your offense you get some sort of value. This preseason, I haven't really seen that much, at least from our skill position besides Ray Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Besides Ray Davis, for what I've seen so far, it just hasn't been impressive. And it's the quarterbacks. It's just been them.
Game 1, Samuel game 1, and the two they each got one pass from Josh looked about what I expected. Samuel taking the little screen for like 14 yards. Hey, we ran a screen. We ran an effective screen for the first time in years with Samuel. And then Khalil, I think he's gonna be as good. We didn't see Dalton do much, this preseason because the first team hasn't played. And yeah, Jessica Neal was just a gunner. I feel like they've kind of gone away from the, because it wasn't just Neal, but the back Matakevich was just a special teamers. I think they were trying to get guys who can also be defensive guys as well, because we ran into that problem last year. We had Matakevich on the roster, but we had to go get AJ Klein because Matakevich can't play linebacker. He was only a special teams guy. So I feel like they're trying to get guys who can both play special teams and still function in the defense, which is why I think a Joe Andreessen would be a good fit for one of the depth linebacker spots.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I mean, first of all, like I said, this story's been amazing. Great story. For what we've seen from him so far, UB tryout player. Was able to kind of make some of the cuts there. Came to training camp. He's had a great. I don't think that game does justice for what he's done in training camp. I thought he's had a really good training camp. I think he's been impressing a lot of players. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that Steelers game, especially when he played at that first, it was impressive. How he was able to kind of shoot the holes, extremely instinctive, caused a lot of pretty much clogged a lot of lanes, pretty much damn near by himself. Was able to force back a lot of these running backs to cut back, and you've seen a lot of other players make plays because of Joe. I would love for him to have another game like this. And like I said, and like you said before, again, I think if he does make the roster, I think he will have a special teams role and be a depth linebacker. I think my question is for him is that where are they going to have him in terms of depth wise? Are they going to have him more as a will backer, or are they going to have him more as a Mike right behind Bernard?
I think he's going to be more of the Mike because Williams is playing, outside. Then you have Jones as a Mike who can also play outside. Mm-hmm. So the linebacker, we have Balin Spector. He's the other real Mike, but he's been injured. Like I would rather keep Andreessen than Balin.
Yeah.
Balin Spector gets on the field and he gets hurt every time.
Especially because I actually think Joe's better I think he's better in zone coverage for a team that pretty much that's what they want to do with their linebackers is to definitely play a lot more in zone. And Dorian Williams, that's the one weakness about him is zone coverage. I'm not saying he's going to replace that job. I'm just saying Dorian's not the best at it. He's not the best at it. But that's why you have Deion Jones. That's why you have Deion Jones there, who's more an expert in that sort of area. But
yeah,
Dorian's phenomenal.
I also wouldn't be surprised to see us run a defense like we did last year where we had, Terrell Bernard, then you bring down either Taylor Rapp or bring in, Bishop to play that other linebacker spot who's a bigger safety to, in dime defense, because that's what Poyer did for us last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting to see that. Tommy sent me some questions he wants us to go through tonight. So I will go through that after we get through this. So let's turn our attention to the defensive line. I think I have about 12 guys I could see making this roster, but I only think we keep 9 or 10. How many do you think we're keeping on the D line?
I don't see. Oh boy, I think I probably around 9 or 10. I think they're going to keep a lot. I think they have a fearful situation like they did last year. I think losing Daquan Jones for that amount of time and not really having that true one tech or a one tech that can be, maybe not as valuable as a Daquan Jones, but can have the sort of impact that Daquan's have. I think that is something that they kind of want. I think 3 tech were solid because I do like Dwayne Carter as a rotational piece.
What are your thoughts on Austin Johnson? Because he's supposed to be the one tech backup.
He's been okay. I think he's been so-so. I don't think he has been. I don't think he's been too impressive. I think they've asked him to do certain assignments, and I think he's done that pretty solidly. I don't think he's done anything to kind of diminish it and hurt it. But yeah, that's the one. That was the weakness going into this thing, and I think that's something that they're gonna try to keep an eye on. Definitely, that they want to definitely keep an eye on. Is that one tech spot?
Do you think we keep 5 D ends, or do you think we keep 5 D tackles?
5 D tackles.
So you think we only run the 4 D ends? Do you think we let Javon Solomon go? Try to get him back on the practice squad?
Yep.
Something tells me that they're going to keep him, and they're only going to keep 4, and they're going to try to get Williams back on the practice squad.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. But I think I think a lot
6 D ends. Woo! Jessica's keeping 6 of them. I mean, yeah. So let's think about it. We have Groot and AJ and Vaughn and Smoot, Solomon, and then who would be the 6th? The 6th would be Kinsley. Would it be Toohill? Who would be that 6th D end?
I would just, if I had to choose, it would be Kingsley. Kingsley would be the one player that I choose. I don't know. I just think that defensive, because we look at defensive end in terms of just if you're going to keep it, it's not for players that are going to set the edge. I think we're fine in terms of setting the edge. I think it's going to be just who can rush the passer, who's going to be depth in terms of rushing the quarterback. And I don't think that, and I think that is, I don't think that's fixable. I don't think you can really fix that issue. I think the one weakness and the one hole is honestly defensive tackle depth. I think we need that.
So what if we keep 5 and 5? You know, keep 5. You know, we can always do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, you're keeping 10. That means you're taking away from somewhere else. On the offensive line, I think we only go with 9. Because sometimes we go 9, sometimes we go 10. But I really think due to the ability of the guys moving, I think it's Tyler Grable is that 10th guy, depending on if they want to keep a second tackle, you know, backup tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I also think Tyler Grable's, or no, it's not Tyler Grable. I think it's Will Clapp is battling with Collins on who's going to be that 9th guy. Because I have the feeling our starting 5 is there. Then you know it's going to be Vandermark. You know it's going to be Anderson, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you know it's going to be Van Granger.
Yeah, he's
so there's your 8. There's your 8. So the 9th guy will be Collins or Grable, or it'll be interesting to see who that is that comes out of there.
I think Grable actually has a higher chance of making the team. Collins has been banged up. I think that's kind of the issue with Collins is that even going into this thing, he just wasn't at 100%. I don't think we've seen the full extent of what Collins can do, and it's been kind of limiting his reps. I don't think we've just seen as much Collins as what we would like to see from him compared to a Grable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that'll be interesting. I mean, you have enough depth inside if you decide to go with Grable over Collins because you would still have.
I'm supremely
Ranger and
in that position.
Yeah, and Anderson. Who both. Anderson can play either guard, and Van Rangers could be the backup center. So it'll be interesting to see that. Tommy feels that Andreessen has to match or do better than what he did last week to make 53. I don't think so. I just think he doesn't have to fall on his face. If he doesn't fall on his face this week, I have a feeling he's making this roster, especially with all the injuries we have at linebacker.
You don't want to risk. You don't want to risk having that again. I think that's kind of one of the things you don't. If you know you have a player that's been performing in this preseason, you don't want to go through that situation where you're calling AJ Klein straight from his van again to play in a playoff game. I think you want to have as much security as possible for that position, especially because you already got one linebacker down. You don't know what's going to happen with the rest of these players going on through the season. So
Spector's down, Moreau's down. Like none of these guys have played because they've been hurt.
Ulo's down. Yep.
Yeah, Ufucio, who I had high hopes for coming in because super athletic linebacker. I loved his game at Washington, but he just can't. If you can't get on the field, can't show what you can do. Robert comes in and said the Chiefs checked out Andreessen before the draft. I feel Andreessen will never get to the practice squad. I also feel that way. It really depends on what he does tomorrow. If he doesn't fall flat on his face tomorrow, I think he's going to make this roster. And if he doesn't, he's going to get picked up by somebody. If he falls flat on his face, then people are going to take it like, listen, he had a really good game. It's one of those, training camp darlings that had a great game and then just couldn't replicate it. but nothing I saw from him last week showed me that he was just playing over his skis. You know, he read and reacts. That's what he does.
Yeah, it was impressive. It was very and not just like read and react. Like he shot through gaps against really really good interior offensive line players. Shot through gaps, made plays. Was able to kind of help clog lanes, forced a lot of backside help. I mean, we had a phenomenal game. It was phenomenal against some really quality players.
And Jessica's not wrong here when she says, you know, there's a reason why they started him last week. They could have put Deion Jones as a starter. They could have put other guys. They let him run with the first and the second team. You know, he played 3 quarters last week.
He played played a majority of the snaps.
I mean, I tip your cap to the guy. You know, came out ready to go. It's not a given for him. They'll be watching him for sure. I think so. I agree. I don't disagree with that, Tommy. However, you're at work. Be at work. If you're going to be this chatty, show up. And I say that because that's what you said to me when I was in the chat last time. Okay, but TB didn't practice or preseason at all last year. You're right, Beth. You're right. You know, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm not sure that that's how we should judge people. Is they didn't play in the preseason, so they're going to be fired. Going into last season, everybody was worried about middle linebacker. We had no idea what we had. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, that could be the way it looks at safety this year. Mm-hmm. We have no idea what we have at safety. You know, we haven't seen Bishop or Edwards this whole time. One of them is going to get the start. Oh, God, it's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Who starts as the Mike tomorrow linebacker? I think Andreessen starts as the Mike tomorrow because we know none of the starters are going to play. So I think Andreessen's going to be the Mike, and if Moreau can play, he'll be the weak side. Otherwise, I think it'll be Ufucio or who else would be there? Because I think they brought back a couple other linebackers. But I think Andreessen becomes the Mike tomorrow if I don't think it's anything. I just think he's going to start at Mike tomorrow. Why would they not after last week?
I think depending on his snap count, I think if he has another sort of game where they keep him in there for like around, let's say 2.5 quarters, I think he makes the team. I think he makes it.
Mm-hmm. If they yank him out, be like right around halftime.
If they yank him out pretty quickly, I think his chances of not making the team is good. Yeah, they're looking elsewhere. But if he stays in there for a long period of time, he's good.
Oh, and Bernard. Well, let's look at this twisted. Bernard's our starter, you know. But it's nice to have a backup who actually looks halfway decent, to where we don't have to call on the scrap heaps to try to put scrap together a linebacker core that Travis Kelce just runs by all day long.
Mm-hmm. Now I'll say this: if he plays at will, and he has that game like he did against Pittsburgh, then we're gonna have a different conversation.
Do you think they would slide him over to Will to give him a shot at it?
He's played it before. I would. I'll give him a shot. I'm like, I want to see what he can do because I want to see what he can
do. Maybe start him and Deion Jones tomorrow. Deion at the mic and him at the will, just to see what kind of versatility he's got.
I want to see what he has. I am not confident. I like Dorian. I think he has a lot of potential. I'm not confident. I'm not confident yet. I think he's gonna have. I think he's gonna struggle a little bit.
I think he's gonna grow this year.
Yeah, he's gonna grow.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have to grow into it. I think McDermott's also really good at finding a way to focus on his strengths and limit his weaknesses. He did it with AJ Klein, and he's done it with a few others. If he can find a way to keep him out of like man or major zone coverage, like you want him to get the flat, fine, but don't be having him carrying it 25 yards downfield. You know what I mean? That's not his game. His game is read and react and bring the boomstick. That's what he does. August 20, Joe Andreessen, linebacker prospect, scored a 9.3 out of 10 on the RAS. Yeah, we know he's athletic. Oh no, Bernard won't play. None of the starters are going to play tomorrow. It's going to be very much a backup game all the way through. Which, speaking of that, do you think Keon Coleman plays tomorrow? because he's not listed as a starter.
No, I think they sit him down. I think you give this opportunity to some of the other receivers that's gonna try to make this roster. I don't, like I said before, I don't think Shavers has had enough of opportunity. I don't think Justin Shorter. I don't think a lot of these receivers, the KJ Hamlers, players that are fighting to make a roster spot. We all know Keon's making this roster. These receivers are not. You give them the start, give them an opportunity to see if they can prove themselves. Now, unfortunately, you're playing with quarterbacks that you have almost no familiarity with. You have like 1 week to work with these guys, but that's you don't want to put Keon Coleman working with some of these brand new quarterbacks that you just bring in for the first time.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm interested to see Brown. Like, he was functional in his 2 starts in Baltimore. Like, he wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll be interested to see what he looks like tomorrow on a limited scope, because our quarterback room isn't great.
No.
And keeping him as QB3 just in case something happens, I'd be okay with.
I wouldn't
or us go get a better QB3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's sad when you're looking at, like, okay, will we trade for DTR? No, because he's not going to supplant Trubisky. They love him. They're paying him too much money. Okay, like, what quarterbacks are going to be cut that could go there? You look at the Bailey Zappies and, the Zach Wilsons and those. I'm like, are they really better than what we have today? Like, I think Bailey Zappi would be a good one, but I have a feeling he's going to find his way onto somebody else's roster.
I'm interested in Zach Wilson because I heard they're not loving his performance. I'm very interested in seeing what happens in Denver. Again, you know how I feel about this. We got to start. This is why we should have been started, drafting these young guys in this draft. We should have been drafting these young guys to sit behind Josh and learn, develop, grow, to be a solid backup, man. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing some of these young backups that that these teams might let go of. Because the Danucci's, the Mitch Trubisky's, it's just not working.
Oh, Tyrod is supplanted as the backup, right? He's
killing it.
He is the number 2 still, right?
Yeah, he's killing it. He talked because my friend PD, shout out to PD, he went to the practice squad and he showed me we FaceTime, and you can literally, I never even thought that Tyrod Taylor was a trash talker. He was talking smack about
was he?
Yep, completing passes left and right, talking. I know, because he's quiet. Tyrod's a quiet dude.
Yeah,
smack the entire time. He was pissed. He got pissed that, like, I guess the way that went down with the Giants. He didn't like it. He's talk smack the entire practice. It was awesome.
Yeah, they did him wrong there. That guy's had a bad luck in his career. Every time he tends to get the starting job, something happens to him to where he can't actually go with it, because he had it in Cleveland. Then I think he got like a concussion, so they brought in Baker, and then he went to the Chargers and was supposed to be the starter there, and they punctured his lung. And then he went to the Giants, and then they brought in Tommy Cutlitz because he got hurt. Like, the guy just never could, hold on to that job.
Yeah, it's just oh, it sucks, man. It sucks, but it's fun. I mean, he's loving New York. He's done a great job. Everything they've asked him to do, he's done it exceptionally well. He's a good backup. He's one of the best backups in the league for a reason, man. But no, that Giant stuff, for what I've seen, at least they're like, man, he was going in, making sure that, dude, yeah, you pissed me off big time. And so I didn't know he had it in him. He's always quiet.
I'm glad that he's letting it out. Jessica comes in and says if a player needs tomorrow to make the roster, they're not making the roster. One game makes no difference since the start of training camp. Only place I see that it could help them, I don't think they make or break by tomorrow. Where it can help them is the special team depth guys. If Hardy and Ingram and those type of guys on the defense, they continue to play like they have over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I think that'll only cement the roster spot rather than hinder. If Hardy goes back there to do some punts and botches 2 or 3 of them, he's gonna have a hard time making this roster off of that game, because KJ is nipping at his heels trying to get that job. And we know McDermott's going to go with the veteran over the rookie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that's the only spot really where make or break is those back end of the roster guys who are positioning for the last 3-4 spots probably, and that's where tomorrow could help them. I don't think they make or break it off of tomorrow, but I think it definitely could help them.
Yeah.
Tommy Simpson says, "Who's your most disappointing player or players of the offseason, including preseason?" My most disappointing is there's two guys. One is Mitch, and two is MVS. Like, I knew he struggled with drops, but holy crap, he has not made like a sighting at all. Like, he's been quiet this preseason.
Mm-hmm.
I would say those are my two biggest disappointments so far.
I'm trying to think because like I said, I don't want to use the same. Tyler, no, I use it. Bass, and then I'll probably use Scanling. Why not? I just use Scanling. Why not? I'll probably think of something
MVS,
else.
right?
Scanling, yeah, because I mean, you brought Scanling in for one reason and one reason only, and that's to be a deep threat. You brought him in here to be a deep threat, and he has just been a disappointment. Bass has been terrible, flat out disappointing. We talked about this backstage. His confidence is shot. Not the same player that I saw during camp the last couple of years. Always energetic, always interacting with the fans, always talking with the players.
Bass. I didn't even think about Bass. You're right.
You look at him now. He's just by himself, not engaging with the players. He just looks out of it. Like, you just look at him and you look at his demeanor. He's lost his confidence. He has lost his confidence. And I don't know if this was during the season or if this was after that KC game, which again, that after the game was over, it was a lot of threats, a lot of threats that were made, man. It was to a point where the cops had to come and guard his home for the I think about a couple of weeks of how bad it was.
It was bad.
Yeah, but you look at him now, it's like he hasn't gotten over whatever the issue was, and his confidence it's dead. Like I don't like a kicker losing their confidence it's hard to regain. It's hard to regain that confidence. And so I hope he gets it back. But I don't know. Like, you just look at again, you don't even have to watch him kick. All you have to do, if anybody that's going to the game tomorrow, watch what he looks like on the sidelines. He just looks like he just does like he's lost his confidence. One of the most entertaining,
so disappointing,
inspirational player. Like, he's one of the guys that he just hypes up the crowd, hypes up the players. He doesn't engage with anybody. He's just by himself in a corner, like a golf kid, just by himself. And
that's so disappointing.
Insane.
It's so disappointing because that means it's going to be erratic all offseason. Amy comes and says Spencer Brown. I don't think he's been most disappointing. Has Spencer Brown been bad? I know he had a bad game against.
He had a bad game first game
against Chicago. But I thought he bounced back great against the Steelers. Ooh, Jessica, I like this one. Deshaun Williams is her most disappointing. Thought he would have been ahead of Dwayne Carter. Deshaun Williams has a lot of starts in this league, and has been really good depth D tackle. And that goes back to why we were talking about, do we keep, 5 D tackles? Do we keep Deshaun, or do we try to get him to the practice squad and have him, call him up as we need him? It'll be interesting to see, but I also thought Puna Ford was the guy that was going to come in here and do something, and he did nothing either. And McDermott never played him. Like, I was excited about Puna last year, and Williams kind of falls right in that same line. I was excited about Williams coming in and nothing. So it's disappointing. Let's go to our running backs. James Cook and Ray Davis. I have a feeling James Cook's going to start the year as getting the majority of the carries. But if it goes how it's gone over the first, through camp and through the first 2 preseason games, I think Ray Davis is going to start eating into some of those touches.
Yep. James
you
Cook,
feel the same way?
Just stop dropping the ball, man. Please. I mean, just stop. I mean, now I see why we're limiting his route patterns, because he just keeps dropping the ball during practice, during the game. Just keeps dropping, keeps fumbling, keeps dropping and fumbling. You got to stop. And then I don't think he's. See, and again, I get it. James Cook's. I mean, he's a different back, right? James hits the hole, but then once he hits it, he's very patient, waits waits, tries to set up blockers, and then he
very
goes.
Le'Veon Bellish.
Yeah, Gray goes like he sees it, gone. He may be a little bit patient, waits for the block to set up, sees it, gone. He's hitting that hole. He's hitting that thing in full force, and he's tough. He's a bowling ball, and so Ray has been, in my opinion, right. I know some fans may agree with it. He's been the better back all throughout camp.
Tommy's been preaching that week after week. He's been loving Ray Davis since we drafted him. Colleen, no one's going to come after you. This is a safe space. You feel that Coleman is your most disappointed. I understand you're disappointed off that one play, and he's come out and said he should have made the catch. It could have been a better ball, but he should have made the catch. He's come out and said it. I don't want to kill the kid for one play, but it's a safe space, so you're good.
Coleman should have at least had 6 catches. And at least during the last game, there was at least there's 2 catches I can tell you right now that he was wide open and
ball never made it his way.
Yeah, didn't even look.
And the week before, he had a few that he was open and the ball never made it his way. Shavers is the same way. Shavers been open a few times and the ball never made it his way. Like, we just had bad quarterback play. All it is. And come in loving me some Ray. Feel a bit stronger than Cook. No pun intended. Listen, Ray Davis reminds me of a better version of Devin Singletary. He doesn't quite have the phone booth make you miss that Singletary had, but I feel like he has a bigger frame and he's a little bit faster.
It seems like he's more suited for this offense than James Cook. And James Cook had 1,000 yards last year, but if we're going in the direction that I think Bills fans think that we're going in just based off the last 8 games, it just seems like Ray is just a better fit. And James probably would be the number 2 guy and just be a very good third down option.
Tommy nails it here. Ray Davis's pass protection is phenomenal.
Better. Yeah, it's way better. It's not even close.
He steps up and he understands what the assignment is, and he has no problem doing it. Better technique, bigger back, has no problem doing it. And the whole thing, Cook coming out, his money was his hands, and all of a sudden he just had the drops. Like in college, he didn't have these problems. He was running wide receiver routes in college.
Yeah, he's running real routes, he's running a lot of
concentration drops is what it is.
Yeah,
because he's turning up before he has the ball. At the end of the day, that's going to get you put on the bench when you have a guy like Ray Davis. That's your running mate. Yeah,
we've seen McDermott literally punish James Cook for fumbling the ball, dropping passes. I mean, missing 2-3 quarters before getting in the game and actually getting some action. I mean, I think that James Cook's on the chopping block. Me personally, I don't care how many yards he has. I think Ray Davis has been extremely impressive. He's been the best camp in my opinion during camp. And I think they're willing to accept. I mean, especially because James Cook, this is I think his 3rd year now. This is the 3rd year of his contract. He's about to go into a 4th year. You see what these players are doing now. They're not waiting until 5th year options and 4th year options. They want to try to get paid now. You want to try to apply as much pressure on James Cook as possible. He may not be happy with it, but you got to do it. If Ray Davis is out playing him during camp, then his rep is going to cut into his reps.
Yeah. Trek comes in and says the battle for the 3rd running back spot because Johnson has done nothing. I don't think there's a battle at all for the 3rd running back spot. I think it's Johnson's spot. I think the coaches, Tony Sess loves him. And as good as Gore has looked and Evans have looked, I think they're practice squad only guys. I think our 3 running backs are already locked up. I mean, I would be okay with them, giving Gore and those guys a shot at it, but I have a feeling because Ty Johnson is also a great special teamer, he's going to be that running back 3. Davis has better hands. Yes, I do agree. He has better hands. Gore. I would love to see Gore he hasn't made it past the 3rd team though. So he must not be doing something because they haven't given him any reps with the 2nd or the 1st team at all. So, it kind of tells you everything that they've seen to this point. Or they just never gave him a shot. Maybe the other guys were better and they just never saw him climbing the ladder yet. Yeah. I have a feeling Gore's going to be on our practice squad though.
I'm very curious to see how tomorrow how it's going to look like, because I don't know. I don't think Davis should play at all. I think Davis went from fighting for a roster spot. I think he's got it. I don't think he needs to really show that much. We've seen 2 games of a good sample size. I think you let Gore and some of these players fight for it. I do think that Gore has probably the best chance is practice squad, but you let these players fight for it.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen too much for Davis. I don't need him to play, especially because
Right? Yeah, let those other guys fight for the practice squad. Colleen comes in and says, "Thank you, Scott. I was just hoping to see him shine more." You have to also remember, Colleen, there's a lot of things that we don't see at practice and camp unless you were there. Like, he was shining throughout training camp, making plays. I've also heard, if he got locked up on one play, he figures out his release on the next one, so he learns quick. So I wouldn't expect him to make that same mistake again. Even, when he's short arm the ball, I bet you next time he figures out, he makes the adjustment that he needs to make to catch that, and he catches it. He doesn't tend to make the same mistake twice. You were at camp. Did you see Coleman make that same mistake twice ever? Or was it always just, okay, he made the mistake, he learned from it, and he found a way to beat it?
Yeah, he learns from his mistakes. Matter of fact, after the Bears game, when he was going against Jalen Johnson, and again, Jalen Johnson did an incredible job at him. They literally, what they did to camp the next day was they literally, I forgot which corner it was. It wasn't Douglas. It might have been Benford. I think it might have been Benford that might have done it. But they actually had, bigger, stronger sort of corners usually use the same jam techniques that Jalen Johnson used on Keon Coleman, and they did it all throughout one-on-ones just to see if Keon Coleman can learn and get through his mistakes. Keon Coleman was, he learned from his mistakes.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, again, he may make some.
I think Douglas was the one who locked him up, and then he figured it out, and Elam went to do it, and he cooked him.
Yeah, it was a bigger back. It was a bigger defensive back. It might have been Elam. It might have been Elam. Again, it is what it is. But typically with Sean McDermott and what a lot of defensive side like do is that they like to, basically, you watch film, you see what you do, then you go on the practice field, and then you practice. You practice exactly what you're being taught by your coaching staff during the film. Okay, you know what? We told you to do this. Now let's see you execute it on the football field. And Keon Coleman, I mean, like I said, he's been one of the best players in camp. I don't think anyone who's been there or has heard, I mean, anyone's not going to, he's been one of the best players. In my opinion, I think he's been the best receiver at camp. He learns very, very quick. He has a very high football IQ, man. So like I said, I get it. People want to see more from him in terms of camp, but in terms of how he's progressing, he's been nuts. He's been nuts in terms of.
He's actually better than I thought he was. I was not in the Keon Coleman camp. My concern with Keon coming out was always his separation. Was he going to be able to separate enough in the NFL? And seeing the work he's put in to learn how to separate, is something I didn't take into account. So, another guy that I may have got wrong that Tommy got right, and he likes to remind me of that. Jessica comes in and says, Cook never had so much work last year. I think got worn. I agree with that. I really think Cook got worn down at the end because he hadn't had that many carries. But the issue I've had with Cook is the issues that he was having at the end of last year have creeped up in training camp this year. The drops, touchdown drops and, fumbles, like those are still happening through camp this year. So we'll see how it plays out in the regular season. Hopefully, those concentration gets worked out and, he doesn't have those because he is electric. He's a playmaker. I'd love to see him be able to complete more of those. All right, let's keep going through. Colleen, absolutely. Come in and comment anytime. It's a free space here. We take everyone's opinion, and we can agree to disagree at times. And we on this channel, if you haven't been here before, Tommy and I rarely agree on anything. So tonight I seem to agree a lot with Jarek, but we kind of see the game the same, so it's easy for that. Gore or Evans in the practice squad? Probably Gore. I'll be interested to see if Gore ends up, if we do release him, if he comes back to the practice squad, or if he decides to go to San Francisco. Because Senior is in the front office in San Francisco. He's he's a consultant to their GM. He's learning the front office, very much like Vaughn wants to do. Like what's his name in Carolina that was here, Dan Morgan. Dan Morgan learned, went through the steps, and now he's the GM over in Carolina. Gore's going that same route. He's doing it in San Francisco. Gore Senior is the one who told him go to Buffalo. It's a good spot for you. I know. And he knew the front office. He knew the coaches. He knew he'd be taken care of here. So it'll be interesting to see if he actually does come back to our practice squad, or if he goes and tries to jump on in San Francisco.
But you know what? For a bias standpoint, I want Gore to be here because I gotta. If his aunt went Gore, obviously his great aunt now, but when Frank Gore Sr. was here, his aunt always went to practices, and she was always like yelling his name, and she was going crazy, and Frank's trying to ignore it, but she's just yelling out there and stuff like that. And she's a character. Anybody that's been there knows, dude, she's a character, and she got me an autograph from Frank Gore. But I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her. Maybe I missed her, but she probably was there because this was viral. This went viral. This was like Southern Miss. They played it was a bowl game, and Frank Gore Jr. is getting an interview, and his mom's coming on, and his aunt, because they act like his mom, but his aunt steps on the football field, and he's like, "Ma, get away from me." Because they're trying to give him a hug and stuff like that. That went viral. So no, dude, I would like for him to be on the team just because, and she goes to games too. She goes to games. She's always yelling. She's with the crowd. She's a fan favorite, man. So I don't know. From a bias standpoint, I just want to, I want her to be around because I got to talk to her again. No, she's a trip.
Yeah. If Senior told Junior to come to Buffalo, chances are he's going to say, sign in the practice squad of Buffalo. Maybe he doesn't want to have that in San Francisco either. Doesn't want to have that. If he's in the front office having to release his kid, that'd be rough. Gore Jr.'s a lock for a practice squad. Yeah, I think so. He should be. He's got talent. You saw it. He just didn't play for a big school. You see it when he runs in and in the preseason games. In that bowl game, didn't he have 245 yards rushing?
He had a very good
that game.
He had a very good college career.
All right,
runs just like his dad.
He does, and he runs a lot like his dad. He's just not as big.
Mm-hmm.
We'll hit the last spot of the team, and that's our secondary. Obviously, we have our two starters set at the outside, and Benford and Douglas. Elam is probably CB3 with Ingram as CB4. I'm guessing, based off of the reports coming out of camp. That's kind of where we sit. Ingram can play inside and outside. And then we have our rookie Hardy, who everyone assumed was going to be the slot guy, but has been playing outside and holding up outside. So do you foresee Hardy as that next CB5, I would say, kind of that slot punt returner, type of guy, or do you think he won't make it? We'll bring KJ and you send him to the practice squad and bring in, Lewis as the backup slot.
Well, it's crazy because they tried him out at slot, and he plays better on the outside than he does on the inside. And I think that because I think they want him to play slot. It's just that when again, I think he's very versatile. I think he can play inside and out. And I don't know. He plays outside. He's better. So it's weird in terms of what they want to do with Hardy. Lewis, it's interesting with Lewis because I think they want him to be, I think they want him to fight for CB5 or CB6. But I think safety if he even makes the team, I think safety is going to be his role. I think they try him out as safety.
So that goes to how many safeties are we going to keep? Because Bishop's going to be there, Edwards going to be there, Rapp's going to be there. Then you have Hamlin, and you have Kareem Jackson, you have Lewis. How many safeties do we keep?
That's a tough question. It's the weakest part of the team. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you keep more than what you would kind of expect.
So keep 5. Normally you just keep 4 and then you roll with it.
You may keep 5. you may not have a choice because of how weak it's weak. Like it's I want to say it's weak. It's vulnerable because you haven't seen much from them because they've all been banged up, just haven't really been practicing that much. So they're not taking the valuable reps. And so a lot of the backup guys or players that they're trying out as safety, they're taking more of the valuable reps than the players that are supposed to be taking first team. So you may not have a choice but to keep a lot more than what you kind of want to. Our strongest spot is our outside guys. That's the strongest spot. But you may have to
Matt and Taryn on the slot. Because Taryn's all pro.
You may have to trim it, and it sucks because that's been the strength of camp, and it's just you may not have a choice
because we only have so many, especially if we're going to keep 10 D linemen. You're going to have to take less at linebacker or in the secondary. Somewhere's going to have to give up some pieces in order to keep those guys. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. A lot of back end jockeying, and I think injuries plays a role in who's going to be kept. How many for this position is going to be kept. It sounds like Edwards and Bishop will be ready week 1, but they haven't had any time. So really, what are we going to do? DeMar was looking good. He looked good when he was out there, but now he's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so weird.
It sucks.
And I'm with you. Lewis is one of those fantastic special teamer, backup nickel, backup safety, can play corner. He's a jack of all trades, master of none. Like his real big value to the team is he can play anywhere they need him to, and he's a special teamer.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to make some tough decisions, and we're going to be mad about some of these guys that get cut, I bet. Do they keep Hardy as CB4 outside and cut Jamarcus Ingram so they can keep that extra safety?
I don't want to.
I'm like it's somewhere the numbers have to, the numbers don't match right now. There's too many guys for not enough spots.
I don't want to, man, but you might not have a choice. You got to make a tough decision.
Hammond will go on reserve PUP. That will help with one spot if he does that. But there's like a handful of these up in the airs. Whether it's at linebacker, it's at safety, it's at corner, and then on the other side, it's at tight end and receiver. Do you with Morris down, do they have to keep a fourth tight end? Or do they put him on practice squad and then elevate him, and keep one less receiver? Like it's a juggling act.
Injuries have not been. It's been terrible in terms of injuries. Injuries it's messed up a lot of what honestly what we probably wanted. We had an initial plan going into this thing. You got to go to plan B now, and you got to make cuts of players that probably could have made any 53-man team roster, but you have no choice because you got to prioritize different positions. You got no choice because of how thin those areas are.
Yeah. They have to keep Hardy because Douglas is on the last year of his contract. I mean, they can always re-sign him. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Elam grows because I think Elam's the guy who they would want to replace, Douglas with. But if he doesn't grow, then you'll probably end up trading him and bringing Douglas back.
Elam's played. So here's the thing about Elam. For what I've heard Elam's having a great camp, and it's to a point where there was even conversations that he could have been pushing towards CB2. The problem is Benford is that whenever Benford is getting threatened, Benford rises his game to another level. It's like when he's right there, and then the next day in camp, Benford takes it to a different level. And then Elam is like, he's just, he can't catch up to it. Like it's been a game of catch up for CB2, and Benford just outplays him whenever it matters most. And so I think I think the plan for next year, I think they want to keep Elam. I think they're going to keep him. I think the plan is for Douglas to be out here next season, and you're going to have Elam and Benford play as your number 1 and number 2. I think that's the plan.
Daniel, I think they want Ingram to make the roster, but it comes down to numbers games at this point. It'll be interesting to see how they manipulate it. I don't think they're going to trade Elam. I really don't. I think they have been working. They even sent out their old DB coach to bring in a new one to help this guy along. You
It's
know what I
been
mean?
great. It's been great.
It's been a fantastic change.
Mhm.
And from my understanding, all of the CBs said the same thing. It's just
Yep.
a new voice in the room. Although our old CB coach was fantastic, and now I think he's at Nebraska doing good things in Nebraska, and I wish him the best. But sometimes you need to make that change. Goes back to what we were talking about beforehand. At what point does Pagula pull the plug if this doesn't work with McDermott? At what point do you stop wasting Josh's prime with a defensive coach and go get him an offensive coach? All of our big time money is spent on defense every year. You look at Kansas City, most of it's spent on offense. You look at Minnesota, most of it's spent on offense. You look at LA, most of it's spent on offense. These are all offensive coaches. It's just
Gotta be defense. It has to be the defense.
Every year we pump a ton of money into that defense, and it's good during the season, and it crumbles in the postseason. So let's hope this is the year that they stand up.
It scares me that this team is going to have some money next year, and they literally could. It's a big possibility to spend it again on defense.
I know they're taking their medicine this year to clean up the books for next year to be able to go back out and do things, and they're going to spend it there. And you know where they're going to spend it? Defensive line.
Defensive end,
defensive line, because they do it every year, and they whiff on it every freaking time.
Defensive end, get a new 3 tech to play right next to Ed, maybe in 1, because I think I think Daquan. I mean, Daquan Jones could be back if he has another season where he's riddled again. There's no way out they're going to keep him.
Oh, I don't think they're going to fire him either. Pagula loves him, and he's definitely afraid of making a change like that when we make the playoffs every year and get to the division rounds, and he's just hoping one of these times we break through. Because he sees what happens with his hockey team. He doesn't want to go back to that. I think he's definitely afraid of that. But at some point, take a look at the Eagles. The Eagles had to get rid of Andy Reid to win the Super Bowl. Then Andy Reid had to go somewhere else to finally win the Super Bowl. Sometimes you have to make the change.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is we're going to wait too long to make that change.
Yep. He's 2 years away from 30.
Oh,
2 years away. It's crazy. I remember when he came in, a young, fresh, 22-year-old player, very young, no wrinkles. Now look at him.
Yeah.
Looks just Asian.
Although I did like that he put in a lot of work this offseason in his body. It's nice to see. You think they cut Vaughn? No. Going into next year? Yes. I think Vaughn's going to be gone. I would not be surprised to see Milano be gone. We're paying him $17 million.
Yes.
It would be a Trey White type of cut to where it's a post June 1 to get that back, because we get, I think, was it $11 million if we post June 1 him? It's a possibility, but also McDermott loves him. He might bring him back and just let him go. You know what I mean? It'll be interesting to see what happens.
It's just a freak. It's just it's just another injury where it's just a freakish. Why? What? How did he get hurt? How did he just land on that shoulder and just torn the bicep? It's just you just couldn't believe that that's
he hit someone's leg, right? Isn't that what happened? He hit someone's leg doing the wrap and it popped.
No, you just lay on the shoulder.
Oh, is that all that happened?
Yeah, it was they were doing a little tackle drill with the bag. They were doing a tackle drill in the bag, and he just rolled up on the shoulder wrong.
Michael comes in and says the only good news for the Bills is the Patriots are just giving away great players, so the Bills should be better than them. That's great. Not gonna lie, that's a good one. So let's hit Tommy's questions. So he sent me an article. This is the 5 players who are on the bubble versus the Panthers. The first one is Ben DiNucci. I don't think he's on the bubble at all. I'm not sure he's gonna stick around. I think they're gonna upgrade him once people start getting cut. Do you think he has a shot at making the practice squad?
No.
You think they're gonna upgrade there too?
I think he's out of here.
Okay. Me too.
He's gone. He's gone.
Tyrell Shavers. I think Tyrell Shavers should be wide receiver 6.
He should be, but then you look at again. We're gonna keep extra positions because of just need. And one of these players that should make the 53 is good. It's just inevitable, unfortunately. And Shavers he just doesn't have the opportunities. He just doesn't have enough opportunities to showcase what he can do.
Trek, he already has it. They waived his tenure time when all that happened. So if he wanted to retire after that happened, he would have got his pension. Like they waived it for him right then because they didn't think he was going to come back. Like when that happened. So I think if Hamlin makes the team, he made it because he was playing well. I don't think it's a token thing at all for Hamlin.
Ooh,
okay.
Yeah.
Casey Toohill. What's your take on Casey Toohill? I think he's actually way down the line. I have Solomon, Kinsley, Jonathan above him.
I think he has a chance. I think he has a chance to fight for it if he has a good game. Solomon's I think Solomon's been solid. Kingsley Johnson, I think he's been pretty solid as well. Tua, like he's got to show out. I will say that he's got to show out if he is going to have a chance to make the roster. It hasn't been bad, but he's got stiff competition he's got to go against on tomorrow.
Yeah, and Trek, yeah, that came out like right after it happened. It kind of got swept under, like lost in the shuffle of his progress. But yeah, they came out and said like it was like I think it was like the week that happened. They talked about it. If he made it, that they were going to waive his time for his pension. Because then he was an ambassador for the NFL going around doing all the AED stuff. And so they assumed that he would want to do that, but he wanted to come back and play football. So I say good for him. If that makes you happy, that's what you should do. Scott comes in and says, if we keep 6 wide receivers, Shavers in. Not sure they won't keep 5 and 4 tight ends. After all, Kincaid can be considered a wide receiver. I'm not sure that if they only keep 5, it's because of the 4th tight end. I think they might want to steal that for somewhere on defense.
Mm-hmm. Safety,
that extra corner,
defensive tackle.
extra defensive end, extra defensive tackle. I have a feeling if they keep 5, it's not because they're keeping an extra tight end. Because I have a feeling Davidson's going to make the practice squad, and then they'll use the 2 call-ups if we need him. I think if we keep 5, it's because we're going to need it somewhere else. Although if they cut Hamlin, Pittsburgh might pick him up and do the relationship with Tomlin. Yeah, if I can also see us trading Hamlin, trading one of these safeties. If Bean tends to trade guys that cut down day all the time, so it wouldn't surprise me if one of these guys got dealt at all. It'd be interesting to see.
Had a chance with Justin Simmons. 1 year, $7 million contract. That's what we could.
Me and Tommy got in an argument about Justin Simmons last week. I don't think Justin Simmons moves the needle for us to make us some world burner. If so, I didn't care. We didn't sign him.
I didn't want to start. That's what I just wanted. Just give me somebody who can start. He would at least be the best safety on this team.
Mm-hmm.
$7 million?
$7 million is not a lot of money.
Jesus.
But we have $10 million total this year, so we would have had to spread it out into future years. And we're trying to clean up our cap not to have to do that, which is why they probably didn't do it. I mean, hell, they wouldn't even go get Johan Dotson, and he cost 1.2. 1.3.
Yeah.
So
all you had to do was
what are we talking about?
We care about those draft picks. So we ain't doing that. We care about those draft picks.
All right. The next one, Joe Andreessen. We talked at length about Andreessen today. I think Andreessen's almost a roster lock. If he comes out and looks, anything close to what he looked like last week, I think he makes this team.
And I would love for him to make this just for linebacker depth purposes. We got to have depth. That's one area I don't want to go through that again, where we have to pick up AJ Klein straight from the couch. We don't want to go through it again. More depth, more speed, frankly, because of his athleticism. I think last year we lacked the athletic linebacker, the athleticism overall in depth. We got it. The more athleticism, the better. I think we addressed it with Olu. We can get Joe. You got Dorian, Balin Spector. We all know it. We all know it. Nope, it's not like that. Let's get some more athleticism in there. And so yeah, I hope Joe makes it.
Yeah, me too. I like the idea of the turnover too, not the same guys who have been there and got hurt and just couldn't finish. Here's a unique one. Mike Edwards. Do you think there's a chance that we cut Mike Edwards? He's on a 1-year deal, not a lot of money, so it's not a lot of dead cap. Is there a chance that we're like, okay, he wasn't healthy in the springtime, he wasn't healthy in training camp. Is there a chance that we write him off?
I think we keep him. Unfortunately, he is a lock. And it sucks that we didn't get to see him play. I think it sucks with the staff that they didn't get to see him play, because I think depending on how we played, he could have been out of here. But I think they're in a lose-lose situation. It's the weakest spot in your on your roster. You got to you can't let that go. Unfortunately, at least during camp, maybe during the season, where he plays and he's not showing you anything, or if he doesn't start to play at all, you can maybe trade, try some trade value, or maybe just release him. But unfortunately, that it's such a weak spot for us right now that you can't risk it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Jessica Dennison says, I think Spector's practice squad or IR. Yeah, I think it's one or the other for him too. We see it differently. The play calling is not. Oh, this must be about something else. Which Mike Edwards, safety or O-line? The safety. The O-line one is absolutely gone. Mikey, Edwards or Lewis will start week 1 as safety? That's a good one. I have a feeling it's going to be Edwards. I think they're just going to throw him out there. What's your take on it? Do you think they'll go with Lewis or Edwards week 1? Next wrap.
I'm going to go Lewis. I think Lewis is more healthy. He's safer, much safer option compared to Edwards. Okay.
McDermott is the type that's like, okay, this is the guy. We're going to put him out there. He's just that type of guy. I mean, he did it with Bernard last year. And Bernard got 0 run and then started week 1. All right, let's see. The old lineman, David Edwards, I believe. David Edwards is slotted as our left guard. He's not going anywhere. Nathan Peterman's one of the better quarterbacks in 2018 preseason. How'd that work out for him? They were having a side conversation, but anytime you could get Peterman in there, I love it. Every time I hear Peterman, I hear Rico yelling, Peterman!
How does he keep landing a job?
I don't know. Because he's good in practice and good in the film room, but man, you cannot put him in a game at all. Just so bad. How does Mitch keep landing a job? Every time he gets put in the game,
paid money, high tier backup money.
Yeah, how do some of these guys keep you landing the job? I don't get it. It's weird. Once you're in there, you're in there. Okay. Kind of wraps up all the questions I had here. I appreciate you coming on, Jarek, and riding with me for tonight's show. You gave us a lot of great insight. Nice to hear your takes. I'm glad I'm not completely crazy on some of my takes. Tommy's just off the wall, but he usually is. That's okay. Tomorrow, Tommy and I are going to be doing a watch-along for the final preseason game at 1 o'clock. So we'll be over here on Mafia Sports Report. So make sure you guys come join us. Ride with us. Let's see if there's any last things from the comments before we get out of here. Nope, it looks like we're good to go. We appreciate everyone riding with us tonight. For Jarek, I'm Mikey, and we are out of here.
And look at it go! He could go all the way! Touchdown! Touchdown! Touchdown!
The Bills make me wanna shout. Kick your heels up and shout. Throw your hands up and shout. Throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout. Yeah!